If all minds are clear and all are present, Mr. Treasurer, do we have a quorum, sir?
I'll do the roll call. Mr. Brown?
Absolutely.
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Present.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Jordan? Mr. Miller? Mr. Ragland? You have 4 members. That is a quorum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Treasurer. All right. Thank you all for being here today. I want to preface today's meeting by stating that we're trying to keep to a certain time minimum here. We want to really be able to close shop between 5 and 5:15. So expect that some things may be a bit abbreviated. Questions are still welcome, and certainly where merited. So I just wanted to make sure I prefaced that before we opened up. As we go on, we'll, of course, approve the minutes. We'll have monthly financial report. We'll get the capital funding projects update. That'll be a brief conversation. And do note that these will be a series of conversations that continue on through the next several months. We'll also get a look at the fiscal year 2019 budget requests. We'll talk a bit about that, and also fiscal year 2020 budget presentations. We'll close out with general fund non-personnel budget requests and adjourn after that. Can we have an approval of the minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Awesome. Mr. Treasurer, you're ready to move to monthly financial report?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So this afternoon, we're here to briefly talk about the monthly financial report for February, and I will hit highlights. Revenues are above plan, and expenditures are running below plan. The ending cash balance at this point is up about $85.8 million, but you'll see one of the variances, how that will be somewhat burned off here in the next month. The highlights in the report under revenue, property taxes. As you know, we were in the first half collection period. Now, settlement was received in March, so it's not reflected, obviously, in the financial report for February. But currently, that variance is at about $51 million above plan. The March settlement came in, and when we post that, it'll bring us within $4.9 million of plan, or plus 0.97% of the annual estimate. So that movement from over plan from 51 over down to about 5 over, then kind of burns off about 40 million of that gain in cash balance. Okay, so or about 45 million of that gain in cash balance. So had that been posted this month, the gain in cash balance would have been more like about 40 million. We're working on an end of the year forecast, and I suspect that our ending balance will likely be in that 40 million plus range when we get to it by June. The other item under revenues, again, pilots seem to be both good news and bad news. Good news is they're up significantly. The bad news is we didn't plan for that, so they're up significant. So they're helping build that cash balance. They're up 9.8 million against the plan thus far at 11.4 million year to date for the month of February. I already know that we're going to be about 14 million year to date for March. So they continue to climb. I'm in conversations with our council to try and get an idea of if this is a one-off, can we continue to expect this? And those conversations are ongoing. So we'll get that figured out for the forecast. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question to that effect. So are we looking at pilots to kind of flatten out after March? Are we expecting that?
That's what I'm asking council,
Okay.
to see if they see any more coming out. I believe that is a correct assumption, a correct projection. But I want to make sure from council, they're the ones that have all the lists of all the agreements and when all those payments are intended to be made. I think there's quite a few that we do it around tax settlement time. So many of the payments are due by March, but let's make sure of that so that I don't count on that trend to continue for the balance of the year.
That's a pretty good sugar rush. Thank you.
It is. It is. On the expenditure side, personnel continues to run under plan, now about 2% under plan at 8.8 million. Again, the split between salaries and wages forecast and the fringe benefit plan, the salaries and wages are within about 1.4%. And benefits are within, they're under plan by about 4%. So if we could have that difference, we'd pick up really just to cut $2 to $3 million on the benefit side in terms of being under plan. It's not a large dollar amount, but we'll be taking a closer look at how we forecast benefits. The good news is, I think we got the salary and wages side down pretty good at just 1.7 variance year to date. And that concludes my monthly financial report. Now, you do have online and, available to you the full report and the full printout. And the budget director and even though he wants me to finish early, I failed to mention that purchase services is another expenditure line that's running under plan and contributing favorably to the build and cash balance. So it's 5.2 under.
And the primary driver on those are utilities and tuition, so those are things that are kind of outside of our control. So those are a good thing, because sometimes if we're trending under, the question is there something that we're not doing? But that just means that we're not spending as much utility charges as we were, or tuition's not leaving the district. So we just monitor that, and that's the reason for that variance.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this point? Awesome, we can move on. Capital funding projects update.
Okay. Part of the capital funding discussion, let me begin with this. We are currently engaged in planning for the move that the board approved. I don't know what to call it exactly, so I just name all the programs and schools that are involved. The Dominion, North International, Global, immersion programs. So there are committees formed to talk programmatically. There's also one to talk facilities and things that are needed facilities-wise. So to the extent, obviously, that some facility modifications need to be done, we are in search of a source of funds to pay for that. The capital funds that we have on hand are spoken for, whether it's Operation Fix-It or OSFC money or deferred maintenance projects, but we're in search of a source. Because this is a short time period to identify that source, that is, we don't have a year and a half to wait because some of this is going to start this summer, that takes some of your options off the table. A voted bond issue, for instance, off the table. Takes too long to get there. So then you move closer towards the other end, which is more immediate, is cash. So if we had a source for the cash, which we would have to identify somewhere, that would be the most immediate. In between are some other financing techniques that we can get done in a 3 to 4 month period if that's viable. But I just want to let you know, we are searching for that source. Don't know what the total cost might be, but that's being worked out. We're at the very beginning, very beginning stages of planning for that. I'm looking back at those that are right? Beginning stages, right? Okay, good. Everybody's nodding their head. Good. All right. So, oops, I still need my board up. You should have also a one-page that has a bunch of little school buildings on it. Let me get to that. Oh, there it is. My bad. And this is our discussion of capital funding. And what I want to try and quickly explain to you is how that OSFC funding works. You'll hear me often talk about how we get 30% funding from OSFC for our projects, and we talk very globally. If we had $1 billion worth of the projects, OSFC would pay for 300,000, and we'd have to do locally funded 700,000. And with oftentimes with big global glossy statements, they're close, but not totally accurate. The way OSFC funding works is this. They fund a seat or seats that they will co-fund with us. And after you use up all those co-funded seats, in other words, build those seats, they no longer co-fund any additional seats. To give you an example of how it works, not using our numbers, but smaller numbers, which I can comprehend a little bit easier. If you start at the top and say that our enrollment is projected to be 100 students, and OSFC says we will co-share 100 of those seats, then we have 100 seats to build out that they will help pay for. And there's a blue dotted line on there above where this is Alex's slide, marked FMP complete. So as an example, we've done part of ours. So let's say in this example, we've built 5 buildings. The co-funded seats are all the little blocks that are outlined in blue. 10 seats per building, 50 seats have been co-funded. Leaves us 50 more seats to be co-funded in other projects. But when we go to assign pupils to those seats, you can see that we're not 100% efficient. So in building 1, we put 9 students in those seats, not 10. Building 2, we put 7, not 10. and so on. And in this example, 50 co-funded seats were built out. We put 43 students in seats. We have 7 vacant seats that have been co-funded by OSFC. Now we move on to what do we do in the future? Well, we're going to build more buildings. We have 50 more seats to go. And if we assume that they're going to be 10 per building, it's 5 more buildings, 10 seats per building. This model below the line assumes that we are 100% efficient. Build 10 seats, assign 10 students. Build 10 more seats, assign 10 students. At the end, we will have used up all 100 of the co-funded seats, but as you can see, we will have only put 43 of those students in, or 93 of those students in the seat, leaving 7 seats or 7 students yet to be put in a seat, and those have to be funded locally. So to the extent that we are more or less efficient in putting a pupil in a seat that's co-funded determines how much is left over that we have to fund locally. So you just keep that in mind, that it's not a perfect just multiply by 0.7 for our local and 0.3 for what the state will pay for. The state's going to have so many seats left over that they will fund for us, and will likely at this point have more pupils to put in seats than what they will co-fund. So our percentage share will go up, the state share will go down. But we'll tell you what that is as we get into the FMP planning at a later stage. I just wanted you to get that concept of, so when you hear it later, a co-funded seat is how they look at a building, and they assume you're going to fill it up 100%. But that in actuality is not how we actually put kids in buildings, if that helps. Is that clear? Questions?
Are there any questions? Is there need for clarity even in layman's terms?
I have a question on the part, we moved too fast. On the capital funding part where you said we were looking for money to do the 3-building move.
Yes.
Are we looking at only business and operation money? Or are we looking at business operations, staff salary, all across the board, outside partners? Or are we just praying that it's going to mysteriously appear?
You left me a hanging curveball for a
Okay.
funny answer to that question, but it's a very serious question. Your
Right.
first part implies budgetary reductions to create cash.
Correct.
I'm not currently looking for that. I'm
Okay.
looking for cash, available cash in various funds.
Okay.
So we're looking for cash. Outside co-funding, not necessarily on the table. That's not what I've considered. I've considered, or am considering, other alternative financing sources. Maybe, leasing options, lease purchase, whatever we might be able to do there.
Okay.
Something that we could do maybe on an unvoted debt purpose, not to get too technical, but all of it is to generate cash, but not through current operation budget reductions. That's not where we're headed. We're in too short of a time period to do something like that.
That is our biggest concern, is
Yeah.
we're very concerned
I
about
would have called you,
cutting.
Lois.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not where we're looking,
Thank you.
okay? So let me just be totally clear. General fund, we can spend our money on anything.
Right, I understand. I
we're-
think my
we're-
concern is, you said we couldn't use the bond money that was voted on for improvement, updates, and repairs.
Right.
And I'm okay with that, but then I know in business and operation, we have other money that we use for repairs and maintenance. And that we're in the condition we're in now because we always deferred that money to do other district-wide projects and put those repairs, a Band-Aid on them. So we're
Right.
using bond money now. So I don't want to move 3 buildings and defer more money out of general fund and go back into the pattern we've been in where we're putting Band-Aids on the buildings just to get by, and in 5 years from now, we'll be back to the public asking for another bond because we moved 3 buildings. That's why I asked the question that I did. Thank you.
I thank you, Ms. Carson. I think the question, and if it's fair to say, I think the question at this point is really figuring out what those costs are going to be, what we
Right.
actually anticipate
Right.
that number being. So that thank you for that concern, because it is absolutely valid. But I think at the end of the day, what we really want to first discover is what the cost is going to be.
Right, and I totally understand your question, and that's the best I can say is we're looking for, there's a difference between budgeting and actual cash, and we're over here for now, okay? So that's the primer, and as Board Member Cole mentioned, we intend to bring pieces and concepts, individual concepts to FAC as we build the knowledge base for how we fund an FMP, of Facility Master Plan projects in the future. So hopefully that knowledge base will build over time, and we get to the point where, we begin that process anew or again or revitalize it, whatever you want to call it, then you'll be familiar with the terms and some of the mechanisms, and we can all participate intelligently in that conversation.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Yes, sir.
My apologies, I think I'm 2 minutes over.
Mr. Gooding?
We do have one item, it's an FY19 budget request for transportation fleet services due to some maintenance repair issues that Mr. Oldham will talk through rather quickly for us.
Thank you, sir. Please feel free to proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So the budget request you have before you is for our Fleet Service Department Operating Unit 948. This piece request is for requesting an additional $640,000 for the remainder of the school year. The purpose of this request is to be able to maintain our fleet service vehicles, particularly our yellow fleet buses. What we have experienced this year, and we've been watching very closely, the reason why we come in now, we've been looking at our budgets, and we're predicting a shortfall. The challenge we've encountered is due to our aging fleet, but also due to the inspection change that we have over the last couple of years, is increasing our supply lines, 4 different supply lines that we're asking for increase. One being what we call property services, which would be for our outside services vendors. The second would be line item 581, which is really like our supply parts. Those are the parts, which is the biggest item for internal use for our staff to repair our buses. The next one is fuel, which is minimal $80,000. The next is for tires. And the reason why this is critical, because again, with the change in inspections, previously, if you recall, or you may not, when we had inspections, they were done over the summer. And when inspections were done over the summer, if a bus was taken out of service, we had the summer we repair it, and then it goes back in service and ready for the school year. The way the inspections, because it's throughout the course of the year now, when we have a out-of-service item that needs to be repaired, we have to repair it on the spot, and so we can get it back in service, and that's why the parts are increasing. We were accounting for that moving forward, but again, this is something that took place this year. That's why we're asking for this request.
Thank you, Mr. Oldham. Just a quick question. How many buses in total do we have? Is the number over 700?
We have 843 buses in our fleet. Of those 843 buses, we have 217 buses over 15 years old. To break it down just a little further, of that number, we have 88 buses that's still in the 1990 range, 1991, 92, and 98.
Wow, okay.
What's the problem with international? It says both critical shortage and highest cost.
Well,
This
the
is
international is our, reason why I say it's the highest cost, international is our largest bus, 90% of our fleets are international.
Okay, that's why it's
Yes.
highest cost?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as the shortage, is that temporary or is that long-term or?
The shortage that we have is a shortage of the parts and supply that we need to get shortage of funding to be able to purchase some
Okay,
of these on.
got it.
It's not a shortage of the bus vehicles.
Okay. Thanks.
Any additional questions?
Question, why did they change the schedule from the summer? Is there a
This
particular
is
reason
from
for
the
that?
Highway Patrol. It's their mandate that came down from the Highway Patrol. We don't really control that.
Yeah.
What I can share, doesn't answer your question, but we have an inspector at our site daily now. What we understood, anecdotally, is that they didn't get through all their inspections around the state, so they're trying to enforce their inspections and being at every site, but we see an inspector daily in our compounds.
President Baker, did you have a question?
Thank you for the earlier briefing on this, Mr. Oldham. I think this is a critically important add to the budget, so I support it.
And just with that in mind, how soon are you looking? Are we looking at as soon as next week's legislation? Is this going to be a part of next week's legislation?
Currently, it's on the draft agenda, so assuming that the committee approves that, it will be reflected in the amended appropriations next Tuesday.
All right. So at this point in time, do you need a motion to approve?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion to approve this expenditure? We have a-
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Green? Yes. Ms. Johnson? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Oldham.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, our fiscal year 2020 budget presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Cole. We are going to try to go through this very clearly and very quickly, knowing that we have a hard stop at 5:15. So as I'm speaking, I'm going to ask Ms. Gillison to come on up to the table, because I want to introduce us and then turn it over to the academic services piece.
What that means, though, is if there are questions, please feel free to ask. Please.
And this is the first go-around at this. So we have now until the board is presented with the appropriations in June. We'll come back next month with some updates, maybe some tweaks we have, because there are some additional requests that we're vetting through at this point. Our process is, it's a very intensive, very long process that we go through. The financial forecast, the budgets that you have here are the result of the hard work of all of the budget managers and departments that go through and plan strategically. The strategic plan drives our financial plan. It's not the other way around. So the folks have gone through, they've identified the resources that they need that are driven by the programs and services that we are planning to do over the next 5 years, which will ultimately feed into the 5-year forecast. So that's why we do this piece now, because when Stan comes back next month with the draft forecast, all of the work that the team has done building these budget requests will be incorporated into the May update for the 5-year forecast. Everything that we do is tied to our goals. We go through a very, as I said, extensive process. Every line item is evaluated, and each one is aligned to one of the 3 district goals. And I'm just going to go through this quickly so we can get to this. So the order that we have before you this evening, Ms. Gillison will present the academic services budget requests, followed by Mr. Oldham in business and operations. Dr. Klein will present the accountability department. I will present budget financial management. Dr. Stanford will present the strategic performance and the budget for the superintendent's office. Mr. Behork will present the treasurer CFO budget. Ms. Smith will present the internal auditor's budget, and then Dr. Roush will present the budgets for the Board of Education and board services. With that, I will quit talking and turn it over to Alicia.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Scott shared a lot of information, and I think what is critical for everyone to know is that our $12.3 million budget for academic services is directly aligned with our 5-year strategic plan, and it allows us to continually enhance the instructional capacity of all stakeholders to provide a quality education for every student in every classroom every day. David Baker, our Senior Executive Director for Academic Services, will walk you through our OPUs and how funds will be expended and used to support our core mission. And at this time, as expeditiously as possible, I will turn it over to Senior Executive Director David Baker.
Thank you, Ms. Gillison. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll go through the speed dating round of presenting the academic services budget because we have several OPUs and, like she said, $12.3 million total in requests for FY20. The OPUs are broken down by office, so we're going to first look at the Office of School Leadership Development, which is also the kind of the overall department budget for academic services. Then we'll look at teaching and learning, then special education and student support services, finally wrapping up with career tech. OPU 907 is our OPU that supports the Student Mentoring Initiative. This is a program that we actually have up for review for return on investments. We're going to leave this request the way it is, but we may be looking at reallocating those resources at some point once we know just how that program is going to roll out for next school year. OPU 914 is our departmental budget for the Department of Academic Services. These funds are used to support growth of and professional development of our teachers and of our leaders across the district and throughout the entire school year. And as well, when some of those building needs come up that we need to find some dollars for in order to take care of a situation, we always tap into this OPU to deal with those incidental things that come up. OPU 922 is our summer school budget. It's important to understand that summer school is supported both by general fund dollars and federal grant dollars, and this is the general fund portion of our request, $271,000. Covers a lot of curriculum materials and some individual contracts that support the program, and as well as transportation for our high school students in summer school. OPU 931 is our partnership with the I Know I Can organization, which supports college advising in every one of our high schools across the district, as well as several other highlights there, including professional development for district staff, a lot of parent engagement activities for those students, and not only students in high school, but middle school as well. We're trying to tap into those families early to get them support so that they can be college or career ready by the time they even get to high school. And OPU 934 is our school leadership development OPU. This is a large chunk of this OPU is our partnership, again, with City Year and Communities in Schools. And it's also a lot of direct services for our priority and focus schools in the leadership development that we do, which has been very beneficial. As you're aware, or you may not be aware, several of our priority schools in the last few years have gone out of priority status and into focus status because of the work that has been done in these areas. Moving on to teaching and learning. A lot of the OPUs in teaching and learning you'll see is very content specific, and so we'll go through them. Each 904 is the overall office budget. This is one, Executive Director Sandy Donald is here as well, who can answer questions if we need to. But this is the overall operating budget for the office. Also works with the partnership with the Rotary for Service Above Self across the district, and supports a lot of professional learning that occurs throughout the district. OPU 905, also very heavy with professional development specific to curriculum and instruction. And as well, this OPU supports the ACT boot camp so that we can work on getting as many of our students through the ACT with a non-remediation score, which is a valuable component for the graduation pathways. OPU 909 is our ESL our budget, and one of the major highlights around this is, of course, servicing and providing support for our ESL sheltered sites that are across the district, professional development, and as well those translation services. If you remember a few years ago, we went through a review with the Office of Civil Rights, and based on the findings from that review, we have set aside a significant amount of dollars for both oral and written translation of documents for ESL families. 910 is our reading OPU, and you'll see a distinct increase in this one. This is due to the academic surge that was put in place this school year. So those dollars are carrying over into next school year in the request so that we can look at a significant amount of professional development for our staff, specifically around early literacy, in ensuring that our kindergarten through third graders have that strong foundation in reading. Yes, please.
Go back to 909 very quickly.
Sure.
Can you remind us how many languages are spoken in the district?
Ooh, Mr. Sane, number of languages?
Yes, 101.
101 different languages spoken throughout Columbus
Thank
City
you
Schools.
very much.
Thank you. No, good call out. Appreciate that. 101 languages.
What are they?
Again, back to reading. This OPU also provides support around some of the web-based interventions and web-based progress monitoring tools that we use, not only in our elementary schools, but also in our secondary schools with Achieve 3000. 912 Social Studies, not a significant change here. This OPU, of course, supporting social studies instruction across the district, but also supporting participation with our students in things like mock trial, youth in government, history day, and then providing newspapers and periodicals for classroom support. 915 is a new OPU for this year, not new monies. We've just moved money from one OPU to another to support this. We've had family engagement activities in several different places over the last couple of years, and Ms. Donald thought it was a good idea to bring them all under one umbrella and really track our family engagement activities a little more closely. And so we've moved dollars from various OPUs into this one to support family engagement and the work of our family ambassadors across the district.
Does that include our Children's Day as well?
Children's Day, I don't believe so. Ms. Donald?
No, it does not.
And
How do we fund that? How's that?
That's fund accommodation between buildings because our buildings kind of host it, so they use their building fund to fund children's.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 919 is math. Also, you'll see an increase here due to that academic surge, the professional development that was offered for our middle school and high school teachers, specifically around geometry this school year, continuing that opportunity for professional development into the new school year. 920 is our science OPU, and this is another one where we moved some money from one OPU into this one because we wanted to start specifically supporting STEM within the science OPU. It has been supported in a couple other places the last few years, and so we've moved those dollars into this one so that we can centralize STEM under that science OPU. 924 is our unified arts budget, and this supports all unified arts art, visual art, music, dance, and physical education, pre-K-12 across the district. 927 is library services. This supports all of our libraries that are across the district, new book purchases, as well as professional development for the library staff. Over the last couple of years, we've been setting aside some dollars for library redesign. However, we've repurposed those dollars to support some other academic priorities right now, and hopefully we can get back into the rotation of library redesigns once we start to see those growth gains that we've been anticipating seeing. OPU 928 is our textbook. We're not up for a textbook adoption this year, so that number is fairly low. So really what this covers is supplemental materials as needed, things like workbooks that might be needed, professional development books that might be needed for a very specific content area, or even calculators have been purchased from this one because that's an instructional tool that's used in classrooms across the district. Gifted services, this is the OPU that supports our gifted instruction and gifted professional development. There is state mandated professional development that must be offered to all teachers who have gifted students within their classrooms, and so this is the OPU that services or provides that support for our gifted teachers. OPU 940 is our higher education partnership. So this is the OPU that we turn to when we are looking for the tuition costs for our students who participate in the College Credit Plus program. We are also required to pay for textbooks for those students who are participating in CCP, and the monies would come from here. Plus there are some family engagement initiatives that do come out of this one, but we keep it separate because it's having to do with those higher education partnerships. Programs also such as sophomores to seniors and junior jumpstart in getting those students prepared for CCP opportunities.
Just a quick question, Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Where would we find CODA funding for student bus passes relevant to CCP or, and in our higher ed initiatives?
I'm going to turn back to my team to see where those CODA bus passes come from.
They will come from our operations and transportation department. So when Maurice does his report out, he should cover that.
Okay, thank you.
The last OPU in teaching and learning is our world languages department. This covers professional development for our world language teachers across the district. Also looking at opportunities to increase participation in the State of Ohio Seal of Biliteracy initiative that earns a credential on a student's diploma, potentially, if they meet certain criteria around world languages. That was teaching and learning. We get into special education and student support services. The first one here is OPU 913, which is our student services division. A lot of concentration around positive behavior intervention supports, the PBIS model that we have across our districts, as well as providing intense professional development for buildings in trauma-informed care and restorative practices. Also, Ms. Ward is looking at how can we engage our PEAK program and really look at how we can support the PEAK programs within our elementary schools. OPU 917 supports the early childhood education program across the district, which is a continually growing program that we have. One large portion of this budget is the partnership that we have with the Schoenbaum Center at Wineland Park, a great community connection that not only provides early childhood seats, but professional development for staff and family engagement for staff and families in that neighborhood. There's also professional development that we offer not only to our own early childhood staff, but we invite our community partners to be involved in that professional development so that we can ensure a quality early childhood experience for all four-year-olds across the district. 923 is speech and language services. We'll continue using dollars to calibrate the technology that's used for students who require assistive technology with communication, as well as professional development. 930 is our health, family, and community services. This is the OPU that supports the day-to-day operations of our clinics, as well as the equipment that is used in our clinics to support health services, and as well professional development for our school nurses. And finally, OPU 932. This is the largest OPU. This is serving our students with disabilities across the district, not only with contracts with outside agencies who can support those students in their education, but as well day-to-day operations, support of classrooms across the district, and professional development for our staff. The other thing that we would turn to this OPU for are the various protocols used for assessing students to ensure that we are assessing them and doing identification appropriately. And the last OPU in the department is OPU 921, which is for career and technical education. Industry credentials is a growing pathway for our students for graduation, so we do spend a good deal of general fund dollars in ensuring that students have access to those industry credentials and the tests that are needed so that they can earn those industry credentials for graduation. As well, we cover any items that cannot be covered through the Perkins Grant. And we would, things like student fees, travel costs for career technical recruitment, and as well the student competitions that would not be covered under Career Tech.
Just a quick question.
Please.
Is our return on this investment still a 9 out of every 10 student matriculation through this program successfully?
Pegeen, the question is do we still have a 9 out of 10 students matriculating through Career Tech success rate?
I would have to pull that up to make sure on that, but
Okay.
as a state, that is a very true statement. If a student is connected to a career and technical program, they usually graduate on time and go on to a 4-year post-secondary. There's placement after the 4-year of high school.
Wonderful.
I can get that for you, Mr. Cole.
That would be outstanding. Thank you.
And with that, that's the academic services request.
Thank you. Up next is business and operations.
And one thing I was trying to get through it real quickly, so what I wanted to do is in the slides, there's a budget summary, so I wanted to explain what those are. 'Cause you may see significant differences between the numbers. The FY18 actual are the actual expenses paid during FY18. So that could be a combination of the FY18 budget as well as any carryover purchase orders from the prior year. So I didn't want you to look at that thinking that's not the budget number. So if you see big differences, it could be a timing of if we had a textbook adoption and it was entered, but we didn't pay it until July of the next fiscal year, you could see a significantly higher number than what was there. So the FY19 budget is what the budget request was for this year. So you're really wanting to compare the FY19 budget versus the FY20 request. That's the comparison you want to be looking at. So if you see something there that kind of just, catches your attention, I just want to explain what's behind that. So, sorry, thank you. So with that, I will ask Mr. Oldham to come up and present business and operations.
Good afternoon again. Again, my name is Maurice Oldham, Chief Operating Officer for Business Operations. I'm here to cover budget for request for business operation. Business operation is made up of 15 OPUs. Our request for this FY20 is $38.1 million. In business operation, our goal is we're committed to ensuring students' futures are transformed into 21st 21st-century learning environments. In the next 5 years, our goal is to focus on restarting the district facilities master plan, continue to improve on safety strategies, training, and physical security, continue maintenance and repair of the district fleet, minimize disruption to the learning environment, and focus on reaching 95% on-time bus performance. Our first OPU number is capital improvements. Capital improvements, as you see, will be zero. The reason why it's zero was decided last year. Capital improvements budget is funded out of capital funding source, and so those fundings come out of capital funding source. However, that number for capital improvements would be $320,536. The areas of focus in that area of capital improvements are contracted services, physical project management software, as well as focus on Operation Fix-It. 943 is the Chief Operating Officer's budget. This budget is utilized, it's $62,200 is utilized for performance management support, professional development, and memberships within that division. 947 is transportation. Transportation budget is $3.4 million. This particular budget focused on, the question was asked earlier, it has COTA passes in there as well as part of that budget. Also, some of the highlights that we're focusing in on for transportation this next fiscal year is installation and implementation of a Tyler Drive system, which we're pretty excited about. That's a turn-by-turn navigation system that'll be on every bus. The other thing we're moving towards is pilot student ridership management software. And then the other is also focusing on 95% performance, on-time performance.
With that COTA question, putting that back in play, are we yielding a better cost per student pass?
The cost per student pass has not changed. It's been constant, which is better than most. But what we have here is putting better processes and system in place and utilizing passes where passes are needed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Pilot student ridership management system.
So that's part of the Tyler Drive system that's going in. It's going to go in phases. For example, the first phase, again, is the navigation, which is sort of like iPad that has all the routes, the navigation. Part of that system you can also go to from a safety standpoint where you have RFID cards where students can swipe so you know when a student gets on a bus, when a student gets off a bus. Reason why we said pilot, it goes in phases. In this summer, Mr. McElroy and his team is looking to utilize that in some of our summer school programs, so we can work through that process as well.
Thank you.
948 is our fleet services. Fleet services actually for $7.2 million. Again, there are some other numbers that Scotty talked about and looked at later. We're looking at later, but fleet focus is updating, again, our replacement plan for our buses, support vehicles. Also, provide maintenance, repair, and fueling for our district fleet, install and maintain the Tyler Drive system that I spoke about earlier for transportation. 949 is our Buildings and Grounds Department. Buildings and Grounds Department is asking for $4.2 million. And Buildings and Grounds, again, I always continue to be our focus to increase our amount of planned maintenance opposed to reactive maintenance. Want to mitigate the risk of permanent failure to the district assets and also continuous improvement of our customer service within our Buildings and Grounds office. 950 is our Environmental Safety and Health. This is the department where our goal is to focus on providing safe and comfortable work environment, compliance with local, state, and federal requirements. This is the department, we have some $797,000. This department focuses on those compliance issues such as asbestos inspections and anything that deals with compliance. That's what falls under this department. It's all housed under Buildings and Grounds, but it's two different OPU numbers. 951 is a Custodial Service Department, $2.2 million. The highlights of this is replace custodial equipment, focus on staff development and training, safety, and safety covers many things. Safety meaning safety training. Safety also mean safety personal protective equipment to make sure we're protecting our staff as well as students in our facilities, and then also increasing productivity. 952 is our utilities budget. Again, this is develop, our goal this year highlights to develop partnerships with vendors on conservation awareness program, and also continue to identify and execute energy efficient projects. 953 is our purchasing. You would notice in purchasing that the budget has decreased from FY19. The reason why that budget has increased, to be transparent, is that we wanted to make sure the dollars are in the right departments. And this year, we're moving back the toner management of our printers throughout the district had been housed in purchasing. It's going to be housed in our, so those dollars moved over to our IT department. So it's not a decrease for the district, it's just dollars moved to the appropriate department who's going to manage that, which will be out of IT this year. So purchasing is asking for $1.8 million. The goal for purchasing is to save the district money by expanding the number of solicitations that we manage on behalf of customers, implement an electronic RFP process, and improve vendor management strategies. 954 is printing duplication. The goal for this is just to market what we're doing in our printing shop, keep a lot of the work in-house. The goal we're asking for, the FY20 request is $199,939 for FY20. 955 warehouse inventory. Again, this is a smaller budget, but it has a lot. It's $127,781. Initiatives are implement a robust asset tracking protocols, reduce warehouse supply inventory, and investigate digitalization of records stored at the warehouse. 956 is our delivery services. Delivery services is X from 327-105. Replace our aging truck fleet. Planned moves include with International Dominion, limited classroom, that impacts the immersion program. So the moves is what happens out of this department, as well as deliveries throughout the district. Also replace our aging loaner furniture equipment that we have in the house. We'll make sure in our warehouse, and also that goes out to the district. We'll make sure we're replacing those so they're up to date when they go out to the schools. 957 is student activities. Student activity is 531,920. Highlights of this are replace dated athletic equipment, provide maintenance to athletic facilities when feasible, and contract with vendor for athletic trainer services. And that when feasible part is when funds are there, but also work in conjunction with our buildings and grounds for timing as well, just for clarity on that.
Just a quick question. What does maintenance to the facilities entail, the athletic facilities entail? Is that the redoing of a new track? What does that entail?
So again, the maintenance is working in conjunction with buildings and grounds. So when there's funds available out of student activities, they work in partnership to be able to get some work. So many things is more like resurfacing of gym floors.
Okay.
Could be maintenance of hurdles that need to be repaired. Could be many different
Gotcha.
factors.
All right.
So that's my understanding.
That's my
Mr.
understanding.
Cole.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Colonel. 958, safety and security. Safety and security asking for $1.7 million. Highlights, it covers the cost of providing SROs, school resource officers at the high schools, maintain an alarm response and alarm monitoring system throughout the district. So covers our lobby guard, visitor management system in the school, as well as Everbridge mass communication system, which is housed through our safety security office. And then also our security staff carry AT&T FirstNet cell phone communications. That's the highlights of that particular budget. 975 is our outreach services. The number is 57,000. Outreach services for the maintenance license fees for renewals for our tracking software for our LEDE software program. Also increase LED certification. And then also to always continue our greater awareness of our LED program in just day-to-day operations for this particular budget.
Just a question on 958. I noticed that I didn't see the appropriation we make annually to the Columbus Police Department to the tune of almost $1 million. Would that be in that, or would that be in something else?
No, it's in this budget.
Okay. Where is it reflected on 958?
The first bullet point provide.
Is that the SROs?
Yes, sir.
So that, okay, so the police department includes the SROs?
Yes.
Thank you.
Am I missing anything, Mr. Ward?
No, sir, that's about it.
Okay, that concludes business and operations. Any other questions for business and operation?
Anyone? Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Alderman.
Thank you, sir.
And next, we'll have Dr. Klein with the Office of Accountability. They're a little bit different with her slides because we do this by OPU. There are some segments in the 973 OPU which are further broken down. So when we get to those, you'll see there's no budget summary because that's all reflected and captured in the 973 slide. The rest of it just gives them more detail of what those functions are.
Thank you, Mr. Gooding. The Department of Accountability and Other Support Services is responsible for a wide range of areas from testing, program evaluation, enrollment, school choice, registrar, alternative education, state reporting, and our student information management system. Our total fiscal year 20 request is for $234,388,932. Let's take a quick look at our OPU breakdowns. Our first one is 946 Accountability. This OPU consists of supporting our K-12 formative assessments, data analytic tools, and software, along with support for our required state-mandated Ohio State tests, end-of-course exams, and the ACT. OPU 967 is our community schools. Community school costs are billed from the community schools for educating students who live within the Columbus City School attendance areas but who choose to attend a community school. Columbus City Schools is obligated to provide the financial support for the educational services supporting these students. The divisions of EMIS and Information Management using the ODEC state system cross-reference and continue to check these calculations on a daily basis, reconciling entry dates between districts. OPU 968. These are the excess costs, which are billings from outside educational organizations for Columbus City School students who are being educated by entities outside of our district. Costs associated with the tuition of these students who are placed outside of Columbus City Schools due to unique situations such as foster care, incarcerations, treatment facilities, and so on. Columbus City Schools is obligated to provide the financial support for these students. 973. This OPU contains our central enrollment costs, our alternative education costs, school choice, and our student information management system, along with our new division, Youth and Families in Transition, which is our McKinney-Vento students and families. The increase in this OPU is largely due to the Ohio Department of Education ruling that we can no longer take supplies and equipment for our staff who work with the homeless students and their families out of our grant, and that this must be district supported. Note that on this OPU, it contains the following items: central enrollment, alternative programming, school choice, and information management, as well as our new division, Youth and Families in Transition. That concludes our accountability budget summary, sir. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Just a quick one on the 967 community schools piece, and maybe this is best for Mr. Treasurer Bohoric. Is this still about 20% of our overall budget, this appropriation?
Yes.
Lord, have mercy. Okay, thank you. I just want to, I take the opportunity to ask a lot of different questions so that, because I also know this is recorded, it's important that folks who are watching this really get a sense of what our appropriations are, what we're mandated to pay out of our own pocket, particularly for students, and I love all of our children, make no mistake about it. But for our children in the community who are not within our four walls, understand? So it's important that people understand how big these appropriations are and how important it is to make sure that, you know, in our strategic plan moving forward, we're capturing those youngsters and bringing them back to the district. So thank you for this.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You answered too quickly before I got the number for you. So what we're going through this evening is the general fund non-personnel. So this is the non-staffing piece. So what we're presenting to you this evening is just under $320 million. And as you stated, $212 million of that is for community charter schools. No, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Can you hear that clicker? I am going to go through the budget office piece here rather quickly because it is rather small. There are 4 OPUs underneath budget and financial management. The first is OPU 903. This is the comprehensive contract that the district entered into with the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio a few years ago. This was an additional revenue stream for the district that we did not have access to previously. The figures we have here is the $6.50 charge that is collected by the ESC on our behalf. It is kept in an account at the ESC that we have access to. So this is a deduction that goes through the foundation's statement. $330,000 is what is deducted, but we also have agreed to additional funds as part of that that are also available for our purposes specifically that are tracked at the ESC, so we have access to those funds, which are roughly $900,000 that we have that we use for educational programming. Oop, wrong one. Clicking the wrong one. I'm sorry, I got two things here going on. OPU 906 is state and federal programs. This department within my office is just under $114,000. That is the administration of state and federal grants. This is just the operational cost of this. This is not the grant amount itself. It's just the day-to-day piece for the operations of this office. Yes, sir.
Yield from that. So how much do we end up yielding per annum in federal grants, et cetera?
We're $100 million in federal grants, so it's significant. And obviously, there is a portion of revenue that is available through the administration of those in terms of indirect costs. That is revenue that comes back to the general fund, so that it kind of covers the administration overhead piece of that. So we charge that off as well.
Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. OPU 926, this is non-public school support. This is the operational piece, just over $69,000 for the administration of non-public auxiliary services. So we handle the fiscal components of that for flow-through dollars that go to Watterson, DeSales, St. James, all the entities that are within the Columbus City Schools boundaries. 963 is the budget office. You'll see here again, I guess I do take some pride in this, that even though we build a $1.4 billion budget, we actually only spend $11,000 that I actually get to spend, which is okay. We kind of build the car, if you will, and then we let everybody drive it. So, what's?
I was pointing at Lois, and we'll look at his budget to see what we could do, okay? You're welcome.
It's okay. I steal these pens from Mike. I just don't tell him about it. But he's not even listening to me. So we'll just go on. With that is the budget and financial management budget summary. We will now turn over to Dr. Stanford, who will present the strategic performance and the Office of the Superintendent's budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Gooding. First up is the Office of Strategic Communications. As you will see, OPU 937 doesn't have any numbers in it just as of yet. This will be the budget for the new Chief of Communications. Mr. Gooding will be working with him to figure that out later on in the budget process. Next up is the OPU for Media Relations and Communications. And as you will notice, it's about a $32,770 increase over fiscal year 19. About $180,000 of that will go towards our Blackboard bundle. The Blackboard bundle is what powers our outreach to families and communities, including alerts sent to our phones, posted on social media, and updated online. Next up is OPU 939, which is customer relations. This is an increase of about $560 over fiscal year 19. That work is focused on centralized entry point for families and community, accessing information from the district and our Board of Education. This budget also supports board meetings and public engagement events and our electronic customer management system, which reduces paper and postage costs for the district. Next up is OPU for Media Tech Audio Visual Production. This budget is an increase of $3,221 over fiscal year 19. The increase is primarily for equipment and contract support for events. This also provides online broadcast recordings of our high school graduations going into the future, which is about $20,000, a part of that increase.
But if I can, which between 938 and 971 would be WCBE?
And I'll try and answer this, but I'll turn to Mr. Varn if I got it incorrect. But WCB is an enterprise fund, and it has its own budget and fund through an enterprise fund. So it's not represented here at all.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That is correct.
Next up is the Office of Human Resources. The first OPU up is 918, Professional Learning and Licensure. This request is an increase of $13,945 over fiscal year 19. This office is the office that supports the training and credentialing of our, and also the evaluation system for our teachers and our principals and our counselors through the state system called OTAS, OPES, and OSCES. This budget also pays for professional development to meet state requirements for licensure and tracking of professional development opportunities. We also provide outreach courses through the Ohio State University for professional development for our certificated staff through this budget. OPU 960 is Human Resources. This request is about $12,682 over fiscal year 19. The budget for Human Resources will improve the district's leave management practice, enhance development of the MUNIS and SIM systems, develop training and workforce development, and strategically improve our recruitment efforts of local and out-of-state talent for the district, specifically focusing in on state college career fairs, HBCU career fairs, local student teachers meet and greets, and special education job fairs. Next up is OPU 961, which is the Peer Assistance and Review, or as we refer to it as the PAR program. This fiscal year 20 request is $2,061 over fiscal year 19. The PAR program is a program that's focused on working with our new teachers and also our teachers that have been identified for additional growth and development. But these are individual coaches that work with individual teachers to improve their instruction in the classroom. Next up is OPU 962, which is Employee Relations. As you can see that this budget is flat funded for fiscal year 20 in comparison to fiscal year 19. The resources in this budget go to enhancing the use of the case management system in MUNIS and also to administer professional development opportunities. Next up is the Office of Information Technology. As you will see, this budget request is about $1,566,558 above the fiscal year 19 request. A large part of that is to replace Chromebooks for our state testing requirements. The state changed the platform for the system, and that it requires us to purchase new Chromebooks in order to allow our students to participate in the state testing system. We also have about $250,000 that's for cyber forensics, $330,000 for printer toner, $50,000 for the MUNIS license, and $125,000 for the Centrix license that we have to operate our IT systems. Next up is OPU 945, Networking and Telecommunications. This fiscal year 20 request is $490,957 above fiscal year 19. We hope to provide increased network security and increase our bandwidth with the budget requests for fiscal year 20. Last but not least is the Office of Legal Services. The Office of Legal Services request is $56,128,000 above fiscal year 19. As you well know, our Legal Services Office protects our district assets and tax revenues through advocacy with the tax board at the county. This budget also reflects the movement of the diversity and the anti-discrimination work as a part of the Legal Services Office that functions out of the Legal Services Office. And of course, the Legal Services team provides legal advice and support to the superintendent, the Board of Education, and our administrators and staff all across the district. And as we all know, that's about 9,000 staff members and team members and 50,000 students across the district. Members of the committee, that concludes the budget proposal for the Strategic Performance Department. Next up is the Executive Office of the Superintendent. And so over the next 5 years, this office will continue to provide supplemental support of major district initiatives and programs, leadership activities, and other actions as identified by the superintendent and chief executive officer. The sole OPU in the executive office of the superintendent is OPU 902, and this request is $3,876 above fiscal year 19. And this increase is just a reflection of the 3% increase that we utilized as a part of the budgeting process. But the funding for this will be used to supplement major strategic and initiatives and building or program needs that the superintendent has identified as priorities as a part of the strategic plan moving forward. And that concludes the executive office of the executive office of the superintendent and CEO.
Are there any questions at this point? Thank you, Dr. Stanford.
Thank you.
Next up is my office, which is Operational Unit 969. And as you probably well know, my office is primarily charged with the function of all accounting and payroll and financial reporting activities of the district, and we are charged with also the responsibility for handling the receipt and disbursement of all funds throughout the district. This, in the non-personal side, about 92% of our budget request is in the area of dues and fees and transfers, dues and fees being primarily the county auditor and treasurer fees for the collection of property taxes during the fiscal year, and then the transfers are for the general fund payment of the bus purchase debt, as well as the general fund support of athletic program throughout the district. And that's pretty much it for our budget.
Next up
Thank you,
is,
Mr. Treasurer.
I'm sorry, I will turn over to Ms. Smith for the Office of Internal Audit.
Thank you. Okay, the Office of Internal Audit is charged with providing reports on risk control and compliance throughout all the district functions and operations. In the next 5 years, we plan to continue to improve our professional practices. We also plan to implement and become proficient with the recently purchased automated work paper products. And we also will continue to dedicate more resources to fraud prevention, detection, and staff training. So as you can see, between FY19 and FY20, our budget request has increased by $12,721. And the bulk of that is related to the maintenance that will be required for the automated work paper product that we bought. Our budget is pretty small, pretty straightforward. The bulk of our budget relates to purchasing, working with subcontractors to do IT audits for us, and then the rest of it is basically supplies, professional development, and as I said, the difference is made up of the increase for the maintenance on the new product that we bought this year. That's our budget. Any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you, Madam Auditor.
Okay, thank you.
And last but not least, I will turn it over to Dr. Roush to present the Board of Education's budget and board services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gooding. Essentially, and very briefly, the Board of Education and Board of Services budget supports the operation of the Board of Education, the support services that go along with the Board of Education and our government affairs shop. And largely we're maintaining those services as we move actually into OPU 941. You'll see essentially a static budget, maintaining our memberships in professional organizations such as the Ohio School Boards Association, the Council of Great City Schools, continues the contract for board docs, the wonderful management agenda software that we have, and then also maintains the investment in professional development that the board made last year. In regards to 942, again, maintaining the services for board services and for government affairs. The slight increase there is that in the past we have split the cost of the Gongwer State House reporting service and bill tracking software with the Treasurer's Office. Rather than continue to try to do this split, we've just moved it all over into the government affairs shop in its entirety. And in short, that's our budget.
I just have to say, I cannot believe we pulled that off. So I thought I had a really tight timeline. We got 3 minutes to wrap this up. So obviously, thank you for the committee to letting us get through this so quickly. Thank you to the team. This is not easy work. This is work we do each and every day. It's not just the month of March that's budget time. Every day is budget time because every day we're planning strategically and implementing those things throughout the district. So every day we're making decisions that have a financial impact that you see incorporated here. This slide is just the budget summary. The piece that we did not go through is the school building piece, because what we do there is we do have allocations for students, but dependent on the enrollment in the specific building, they get a dollar amount for each student. So those are there. Those are just strictly it's number of students times an allocation, and that results in their budget piece. Whereas on the department side, we really kind of do a student-focused, program-based budgeting, hybrid zero-based budget. Everybody starts over at zero. We build it from scratch. So that's why we go through the presentation before you so that you can hear what it is that we're doing, because it's not just the dollars and cents you see here. And I keep going back to Dr. Klein, because the first time we went through this, the conversation turned from the dollars and cents to tell me more about formative assessment. And that first go around, that was the aha that we did it, because it's really about the what we're doing. And what we're doing, obviously there are costs associated to it, but we need to know what it is we're doing, how it aligns to the district's vision, mission, and goals to produce the results that we want. So with that, I just again thank the team for enduring this process. Going through this, the hard work they did. Like I said, we built this process, but it was a result of all the hard work that they did with their team to make this a reality. So it looks like, I think we may have a question over here.
Vice President Cole, I'm not sure if you would consider this a question or a comment, but in taking notes, I noted down at OPU 927, 913, 943, and 951 shared highlights for PD for classified staff. It could be hidden in other line items, but I didn't hear very much in the budget report about professional development for classified staff. I heard quite a bit for my counterparts, my certificate friends, but when we as classified bring it up that we're lacking staff, class PD, I'm always told there's no funding. There's no funding if nobody's asking for it and putting it in their budget. So again, I'm going to present this to the committee to please consider and look at where we can find some funding for training for classified staff. If we're going to be in this as a team, we got to be in it as a team as well as professional development as well. We can't be an afterthought and then receive professional development because someone just realized, oh, maybe we should share that with you as well. So again, before the budgets are finalized, I ask that we look at some line items to see if we can, or maybe it's hidden and I didn't understand it, in there to provide adequate, not make up, not throw me in the classroom and make me sit and listen to my counterparts' professional development. That's not beneficial for me. Adequate PD. And like I said, I saw it in OPU 927, 913, 943, and 951. So whoever's OP those are, thank you. Comment or question, I'm not sure, but it's out there. Thank you.
Well, go ahead.
Well, so there may be pieces in there that they weren't specifically called out, because I'll
Right.
address like my office. So my office is made up of administrative and classified staff. So it may be just the wording that people chose on the highlights, because I know for mine, for the PD in there, it is for classified staff.
And
So I mean, we
get
might need
that.
to look at that, but.
I get that, but when we do come to the PD days and classified staff or summer PD, and we ask what PD is being provided for us, at that time, we're constantly told there's no funding available. You can't use title money for this. You can't use general fund money for that. So if the money is available, maybe the departments aren't aware of what line item it should be coming from. So if that information is shared and highlighted with the departments as well as the principals, then I will no longer continue to hear PD day after PD day, 90-minute release time, there's no money available, lost. I'm sorry, we can't provide PD. So like I stated when I started out, I believe it is streamlined in some budgets, and I'm not aware of that. But maybe some departments aren't aware that it's there either. So when I ask for PD, I get internal PD, which is fine and fantastic, but if there's funding there, maybe we could have the opportunity to bring outside people in or accommodate some PD in the summertime with stipends or salaries or whatever to get classified staff. At the end of the day, we want to improve third grade reading. We can't do that if we're not if our IAs and CCAs are not properly trained. At the end of the day, we will kick in wherever we can. But if I have to continue to beg for professional development, we're 3,000 people not a part of the team. That's my only concern before we approve the budgets. I'm just asking that we give that some consideration. I know money's tight, but you got 3,000 out of 9,000 people. You can't continue to treat us in an educational system that we should not be treated and valued and taught that we need the educational training just as well. Sorry, that went from a question to a comment, but I just needed to put it out there because I've been in this role for 12 years now. I've heard the same thing for 12 years. There's no funding.
I thank you for your comments, Madam President. With that in mind, is there a way for us to categorically look within the budget to cite this as line item A, and then on a calendar basis, categorize what type of PD you're specifically asking for? What are you coming to the table asking for, and how do we then incorporate that and find the resources to accommodate it? So
Thank you. That's all we're asking.
I hear what you're saying. What I will say personally as Michael Cole, and I think comfortably I speak for this organization as well, in saying that this is an environment more specifically, even though you've been a valued asset to this team and all of our classified employees are valued assets to the team, this is an environment specifically today where we are all hands on deck. We are all hands on deck. So what that means is that we have to we have to sacrifice. What it means is that we have to team up and figure out where we give folks particular accommodation and thought in our processes and make sure that everybody's accountable for the work that we do as well, because we will not and cannot get another F on our state report card.
Superintendent Dr. Dixon is very much aware of our needs and concerns about PD, and she has promised to work with us on that issue, and I know she will do that. I just thought it was finally time that we bring the issue to the forefront so the budget department can hear about it, our concerns, because I can continue to talk at the cabinet table and the superintendent's table, but her hands are tied to only do so much. So if the issue's not brought out where everybody's in the same conversation, I will continue to be told there's no funding. So I thank you that I've ran over your time, but I thank you for hearing me.
No, it was much needed. Thank you. And with that, this is a wonderful entree into a very honored introduction. So please, by all means, welcome Dr. Talisa Dixon to her first FAC meeting. What I like to do is More particularly for the members that you don't know, right? I love them to give the opportunity to introduce themselves, but we could start with, why don't we just work our way around? Start with Lois. I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves, where you work for, how long you've been on the committee as well.
Dr. Dixon and I have had the pleasure to meet already 3 times. I look forward to meeting with her and 10 more of my locals. I have 11 locals, and the first group she met with were our instructional assistant, because her mission is the academics, and that particular group of instructional assistants wanted to get her on the ground running to understand where they were coming from. So we're going to meet with the rest of my groups over the next 100 days. And Dr. Dixon, I again will say, when I met you the first time, I'm not always complaining. I'm just hyper and passionate about the 3,000 members I represent.
That's all right.
April Knight, Principal at Avondale Elementary and President of the Administrators Association. We met Monday.
Right.
Jack Green, I work for West Banco Bank, I'm a commercial lender, and I'm probably 3 months on the committee, pretty new.
Katie Johnson, I'm an attorney at Bricker and Eckler, and before becoming an attorney, I was a teacher, and I did my student teaching at Ridgeview Middle School. So, yeah, so live and work in Columbus, and been on the committee for about 2 months.
Everybody's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Our silent partner.
All right, thank you so much. And just again, want to extend the warmest welcome. We definitely are looking forward to brighter days, a robust schedule of a lot of heavy lifting with work, but I think that it's all going to pay off. We've seen some wonderful returns on investment today. I think there's more to come. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Good. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.